Friends of Islam, this time the Islamic Notes is back before you to share Islamic information. I hope it inspires your activities today. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and activate the bell button notifications so you don't miss the latest news from the Islamic Notes channel. The story of a French philosopher converting to Islam, finding guidance in Algeria. Jean-Charles Garaudy, or commonly called Roger Garaudy, is a philosopher from France. Born on July 17, 1913 in Marseille, he grew up in a Christian environment. As a student, the author of the book Promesses de l'Islam, Promesses of Islam, was captivated by the thoughts of Marxism and communism. Because of his anti-fascist government activities, the young Roger Garaudy had languished in prison. He was even imprisoned in Algeria, which was then colonized by a Western country. In fact, it was there that he found divine guidance. At the age of 69, the Sorbonne alumnus pronounced the 2 sentences of the Shahada. However, the philosopher, who is also a lecturer at the University of Clermont-Ferrand in Poitiers, is not just a convert. His thoughts on Islam have emerged long before Allah's guidance came. This is combined with a series of his life experiences since adolescence, which were attracted to emancipatory political movements. The context is Europe in the early half of the 20th century. Western civilization has experienced 2 great wars. Garaudy was 26 when Germany launched a blitzkrieg on Poland, triggering World War II. Fascism spread like a virus and pushed Western countries to their worst. Young Garaudy was moved. He believed that the obligation of educated youth was not only to understand, but also to change reality to suit justice. At that time, Marxism and communism were spreading widely in Europe as the antithesis of capitalism. Unlike his father, who was an atheist and did not believe in religion, Garaudy chose Christianity. Even though he was different from his father, who was conservative in politics, he chose to join the Revolutionary Party, namely the French Communist Party, in 1933, wrote Muhsin al-Maili in his biography of Roger Garaudy, The Struggle to Find Islam, Indonesian translation, 1996. Despite holding an important position in the PKP, Garaudy remains steadfast in his Christian faith. According to him, there is no contradiction between the liberation of social classes, as Karl Marx envisioned, and the Christian faith. Garaudy also studied philosophy in Aix and Strasbourg. His academic abilities are considered above average. As a writer, he has produced more than 50 books on political philosophy and Marxism, and more recently, Islam. Nazi Germany eventually succeeded in occupying France. The impact on Garaudy was that in September 1940, he and a number of fellow anti-fascists were arrested. They were taken to a prison complex in the Algerian desert, where they were sentenced to 33 months. However, this was the beginning of Garaudy's study of religions other than Christianity. In that foreign country, he spent much time studying the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran. This was his first opportunity to interact directly with Muslims. In March 1941, a number of political prisoners revolted in the complex, but were quickly put down. The prison commandant was so angry. All those involved are lined up in an open field. Under the scorching desert sun, the commander ordered his team of Algerian executioners to shoot them dead. However, all the executioners refused. At first, Garaudy was surprised by what was really happening, because the verbal argument between the commander and the executioners took place in Arabic, something that was still so foreign to him. Later, Garaudy learned the crux of the matter. The executioners had disobeyed the commander's instructions because their Muslim honor forbade them from opening fire on unarmed people. This was the first time I came into contact with Islam in an important event in my life, and it turned out to teach me more than 10 years of studying at the Sorbonne, France. Garaudy recalled, as recorded by al-Maili, the beginning of Garaudy's meeting with Islam. Roger Garaudy's life journey is so inspiring. There are so many lessons that can be learned from his efforts to find the ultimate truth. Check out Garaudy's journey of discovery, which will be divided into several articles. Sometimes the journey of each individual to become a Muslim presents great meaning to many people. This seems to be the case with Roger Garaudy. The man whose full name is Jean-Charles Garaudy was born on July 17, 1913 in Marseille, France, and died on June 13, 2012. When he was 69 years old, he uttered the two sentences of the Shahadat. However, this philosopher, who is recorded as having taught at the University of Clermont-Ferrand and Poitiers, was not just a convert. His thoughts on Islam had emerged long before Allah's guidance came. It combined with a series of his life experiences, which since his youth had always been captivated by the call of emancipatory politics. The context was Europe in the early half of the 20th century. Western civilization experienced two major wars. Garaudy was 26 years old when Germany launched a blitzkrieg attack on Poland, which triggered World War II. Fascism spread like a virus and pushed Western countries into their worst situations. Young Garaudy was moved. He believed that the duty of the educated was not only to understand, but especially to change reality to suit a sense of justice. At that time, Marxism and communism had spread widely in Europe as the antithesis of capitalism. Unlike his father, who was an atheist and did not believe in religion, Garaudy chose Christianity. And unlike his conservative father in politics, he chose to join a revolutionary party, the French Communist Party, in 1933, wrote Muhsin al-Maili in his comprehensive biography of Roger Garaudy, The Struggle to Find Islam, Indonesian translation, 1996. Despite holding an important position in the party, Garaudy remained steadfast in his Christian faith. According to him, there was no contradiction between the struggle for social class liberation, as Karl Marx had said, and the Christian faith. As a political activist, Garaudy also studied philosophy in Aix and Strasbourg. His academic ability was above average, so that he was able to elaborate the history of Western thought and politics quite well. Until his death, Garaudy had written more than 50 books on political philosophy and Marxism and later Islam. Nazi Germany finally succeeded in occupying France. The impact on Garaudy: in September 1940, he and a number of fellow anti-fascists were arrested. They were taken to a prison complex in the Algerian desert. The sentence lasted 33 months. However, this was the beginning of Garaudy's study of religions. In that foreign country, he spent a lot of time studying the holy books of the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran. In addition, this was his first opportunity to interact directly with the Islamic community. In March 1941, a number of political prisoners revolted in the complex, but were quickly put down. The prison commandant was so angry. All those involved are lined up in an open field. Under the scorching desert sun, the commander ordered the Algerian executioners to shoot them to death. However, all the executioners refused. At first, Garaudy was surprised by what was really happening, because the verbal exchange between the commander and the executioners in Arabic was still so foreign to him. Later, Garaudy found out about the problem from an Algerian teacher. The executioners disobeyed the commander's instructions because his honor as a Muslim prohibited him from firing at unarmed people. This is the first time I came to know Islam in an important event in my life. And this turned out to teach me more than 10 years of study at the Sorbonne, Promesses, Garaudy remembers, as noted by al-Maili. Great writer Roger Garaudy embraces Islam. Through the Gate, opened in 1982 by Roger Garaudy, the famous writer in Europe, Cousteau, captain of the ocean, turned his ship towards Islam. Béjart, one of the famous figures in the ballet world, plunged into the Muslim community. The great scholar and writer Roger Garaudy said in the conference hall of the Garounis University in Benghazi on April 8, 1983, "It is true that I have converted to Islam. You ask why I chose Islam. By choosing Islam, I chose the modern era." This is the same Roger Garaudy, 70 years old, who has been fiercely defending the communist system in France for decades. In universities and political platforms, he repeatedly explained Marxism to the French and Western people, thinking that human salvation lies in this unique system. He is known as the spiritual architect of modern French communism. Wherever there is a meeting, conference, or seminar organized by communists, there is Garaudy. He waged a serious struggle against Catholicism and Christianity with his ideas, pen, and rhetoric. One day, a bomb exploded in the midst of the Western world of art, literature, and politics. Roger Garaudy converted to Islam. As this news spread throughout the world via news agency Telex, the Kremlin was shocked. for it had lost the greatest French communist ruler. Garaudy was a renowned scholar whose pen Marxism had been widely disseminated in recent years. This great man now says frankly, Islam is a religion that drags the times back. However, other religions are dragged back with the passage of time. That is, all religions except Islam are changed according to the times and reformed, and their holy books are twisted to suit the conditions of the times. However, the Quran al-Karim has been dominant for centuries since it was revealed. Not the Quran al-Karim, but time follows behind. As it grows older, it becomes younger. This is an event that occurs beyond time. This is an event that is much greater than all the terrible social, political, and economic disasters that occurred after many wars in history. Islam has not only won over materialism or positivism, but also existentialism. But none of them defeated Islam. The great prophet of Islam, alayhi salam, explained everything by saying, "Work for the hereafter as if you are going to die tomorrow, and work for this world as if you are never going to die." Islam is not only material, but also spiritual. Therefore, both cannot be separated from each other. How can they be separated since Islam states, "Learn knowledge even if it is in China, and knowledge is the lost property of the believer. He must acquire it wherever he finds it." Knowledge and work are not limited in Islam. Because it has no limits regarding these two facts, which confuse the world, Islam has confused the world. By defining man as the most superior and honorable of all creatures, Islam means that man should not be exploited. It is a conglomeration of systems that disapproves of extravagance, arrogance, and luxury, defines income as that earned through the sweat of the face, transfers ever-increasing capital to the poor through a balanced and moral code, prohibits interest, a cause of laziness, thus destroying illicit wealth. Islam requires that the caliph and the slave have equal rights. There is the case of the camel, which is in fact sharper than the king's sword. Hazrat Umar and his slave rode the camel alternately as they traveled from one city to another, the reins being held by the caliph and the slave alternately. This is the Islamic revolution in the field of justice and law. Both Marxism and capitalism are systems that exploit humans. Unlike them, Islam is a heavenly religion that restores the dignity of humanity. Roger Garaudy, or Roger Garaudy, 17th July 1913, 13th June 2012, was a French philosopher. Formerly a prominent communist writer, he wrote many controversial books, more than 50, mainly on political philosophy and Marxism. After World War II, Garaudy joined the French Communist Party. As a political candidate, he was elected to the National Assembly and eventually rose to the position of vice chairman and then senator. He became a leading party theoretician and wrote a number of scientific works. In 1970, Garaudy was expelled from the Communist Party following his outspoken criticism of the 1968 Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia. Garaudy converted to Islam in 1982, later writing that Paul's Christ is not the Jesus of the Bible, and also making other critical scholarly conclusions about the Old and New Testaments. As a Muslim, he adopted the name Raga and became a prominent Islamic commentator and supporter of the Palestinian cause. He is married to Salma Taji Faruqi. Remembering French Muslim philosopher Roger Garaudy, the Islamic world is turning its attention to France. In this country, Islam is in the spotlight, especially the accusation of terrorism by Prime Minister Macron. In fact, France is the country with the largest Muslim population in Europe, as is the Jewish community. Speaking of France and Islam, there is one philosophical figure there whose name is remembered until now, especially in academic circles, namely Roger Garaudy. The man born in Marseille on July 17, 1913, whose full name is Jean-Charles Garaudy, died on June 13, 2012, at the age of 99. Garaudy was a figure who lived when the world's ideologies were fighting for influence ranging from communism, fascism, to capitalism. He lived when Nazi Germany invaded European countries, living in the era of the Great Depression of the world in 1929. Garaudy joined the Communist Party in France to fight the Nazis and fascism. At the same time, he joined the Protestant Christian Youth Organization. But then he left both and embraced Islam until the end of his life. His ideas about Islam and the West are very interesting. Garaudy is a figure who rejects the Holocaust or the cleansing of Jews by Germany, which made him go to court. The claim of the death of 6 million Jews was rejected based on the evidence he obtained. Garaudy also rejected the idea of westernization of Eastern Islamic countries, which he considered could be destructive. In a book about his religious journey written by Muhsin al-Maili, The Struggle to Find Islam, it is impossible to instill a westernization model without using violence, namely establishing a military and police dictatorship. Likewise with the economic model, which he said was an unbalanced exchange between the West and the East, which would lead to economic and political subordination and to the growth of backwardness. Therefore, the revival of Islam cannot be through imitation, taqlid, either imitation of the past glory of Islam or of the West. This is where the role of ijtihad is very necessary. The condition of Muslims in the modern era cannot be answered sufficiently with past ijtihad. Muslims need to return to their true teachings, namely the Quran and Hadith, and not follow certain cultures and thoughts. As a philosopher, Garaudy encourages Muslims to play a role as a driver of the birth of reformation, namely giving birth to new hopes in life. Roger Garaudy, the debunker of Israeli Zionist myths, has died. Roger Garaudy, a philosopher and communist fighter who later became a Holocaust denier and convert to Islam, has died near Paris at the age of 98. From a classic French left-wing intellectual and communist lawmaker, he became a political outcast after publishing a book arguing that Nazi war crimes were invented to justify Israel's existence. Born into a Protestant family, Garaudy went to university to study philosophy, became a Marxist, and joined the French Communist Party, PCF, in the 1930s. Called up when Germany invaded France in 1939, he fought at the Somme, then returned to the Tarn area in southern France, where he was captured and sent to a prison camp in Algeria after France's defeat by the German army. In Algeria, he joined the fighters against the collaborationist regime of Marshal Philippe Pétain and became a leading member of the PCF's Central Committee after its liberation in 1945. After the war, he served as a communist deputy in the National Assembly and then in the Senate, becoming one of the Communist Party's most prominent intellectuals. He also taught philosophy at the University of Clermont-Ferrand, where he joined another activist philosopher, Michel Foucault. His defection from the party came after the invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968, which led to a rift with leftist groups and his expulsion from the party in 1970. After repenting from communism, he converted to Catholicism and eventually became a Muslim in 1982. His main mentor in studying Islam was Saudi Mufti Sheikh bin Baz, who once declared him a hypocrite and an infidel after differing opinions with him. But the most famous event of his life was yet to come. It was in 1982 that he became an anti-Zionist activist, which led him to compare Zionism to Nazism. In the 1990s, he published The Founding Myths of Israeli Politics, which argued that Hitler had ordered the deportation and not the extermination of the Jews, and that gas chambers were not responsible for Jewish deaths in Nazi concentration camps. Following media condemnation, Garaudy was prosecuted under French law for inciting racial hatred and denying crimes against humanity and was found guilty in 1998. He appealed the decision at every level of court but lost each time, with the final ruling from the European Court of Human Rights stating that he had received a fair trial. Among the popular books written by Garaudy are The Promise of Islam, Islam, the Religion of the Future, The Mosque, the Mirror of Islam, Islam and the Crisis of the West, Palestine, the Place Where the Heavenly Message Came Down, and Zionism, a Religious and Political Movement. Garaudy died in Chenevière, in the Marne Valley east of Paris, at the age of 98.